Tonight on Vikings Primetime, a team wins a championship, makes the playoffs, but still has trouble selling tickets. What more can the Vikings do? It's a major concern for the front office. How to put more fans in the stands.
We're trying to do what we can, both on the field and off the field, to make it an entertaining package for the fans, and we hope we're moving in the right direction.
Fan interest is the least of concerns for the Vikings' next opponent, Green Bay, where Packer backers go to extremes to show appreciation for their team. But what is it about the Vikings-Packers rivalry that's so special? We'll find out in Wisconsin.
Nobody likes the Vikings. It's all Packers.
Where?
In Green Bay and the world.
They're going to win it all this year?
Oh, I think so.
Really?
Yeah, I've even got a running bet. No, I don't.
Viking coaches are in the dark, trying to shed some light on their strategy for Sunday's Packers game. Tonight, we get a rare opportunity to go inside the meeting room and see what goes into preparing a game plan.
Steps out. Johnny goes in. See ya. Here's some people flying. Here's your reel.
If no one else thinks Jim McMahon should be here...
And a candid conversation with Coach Dennis Green, who talks about his need for a private life, the challenges facing his team, and about how hard it is to win in the National Football League.
Each year is almost like starting over again with a new cast of characters, a new set of chemistry, and kind of a new direction, new expectations for your team.
From Carolina News, this is Vikings Primetime.
Good evening from Winter Park, headquarters of the Minnesota Vikings. Hi, I'm Jeff Passolt, and welcome to Vikings Primetime. The Vikings moved into this Eden Prairie facility back in 1981, about the same time that they made the move from Met Stadium in Bloomington to the Metrodome in downtown Minneapolis. And that move started a whole new era of Viking football. Gone were the days of the cold and the wind and the snow that Met Stadium became so famous for. A stadium that froze the spirit and the soul of opposing teams for many years. And over that time, the Vikings became recognized as one of the best teams in the National Football League. Sellout crowds and fans with wild enthusiasm, proud of the fact that their stadium and their team were amongst the most feared in the league. Well, now it's 1993. The Vikings are once again NFC Central Division champions, and they're recognized as one of the best teams in the NFL. But times have changed. Hey, football has changed. But the Vikings are doing what they can to rekindle the spirit of old.
Name of the game, man, is hit.
Their 1-1 record means more than just the start of another season for the Vikings. While Dennis Green and his squad continue their climb in the NFL ranks on the field, Vikings president Roger Hedrick and his management team are faced with a more pressing challenge.
Viking ticket office, may I help you?
At their ticket office, calls for ticket orders don't exactly have the phones ringing off the hook. And with only 3 sellouts so far this year, this stamp isn't going to run out of ink. Putting people in all the seats of the Metrodome has become vital.
It's a major focus for me. One of the major priorities, probably the major priority I have at this point over the next 12 to 15 months.
The challenge of the future? Return the Vikings' mystique to days gone by, when the team's image was chiseled outside, in the elements, where every time the Vikes took the field, thousands bundled beyond recognition would follow. A mix of Mother Nature and rugged men had thousands piling into the Met. Every Sunday, a sellout, with a waiting list for thousands more. But when the goalpost came down at the Met, the Vikings' image followed.
That's 2 tickets for Detroit.
It's taken more than a decade, but now the waiting list is gone. Season ticket sales shrinking in that time from 60,000 to 46,000. Ironic that the dome protecting the team and their fans from the elements has become a nemesis, forcing the Vikings for the first time in team history to develop a marketing strategy.
I'd rather play in an outdoor stadium, but we can't change that right now. And I think marketing is a major thing that we're going to have to focus on over the next couple of years and see if we can bring the fans back.
The best seat in the house isn't his. It's yours.
One sign of their approach, a new ad campaign. It lacks frills and high-tech production. But according to marketing experts, the NFL is new at this.
I think for too many years, the NFL acted as if fans were lucky to get into a stadium or a dome to watch a game, and they really didn't feel compelled to develop any serious relationship with their fans.
Clearly, marketing shows that support for the Vikings is solid statewide. But now more than ever, there are many alternatives.
Professional teams are under tremendous pressures these days from all angles, and trying to survive in our marketplaces in many cases makes that challenge even more difficult.
So the Vikings are working to get the crowds back with a widespread approach.
We're trying to reach out beyond the Twin Cities and even beyond Minnesota, see if we can bring in some fans from Wisconsin, Iowa, North South Dakota, or even Canada.
The game of regaining the glory is far from over, and the Vikings hold a key ingredient for victory.
In Denny Green, they have an important asset, and Green has clearly surpassed whatever hurdles Minnesota sports fans might place in front of a new coach, and he's become a Minnesotan.
We're trying to do what we can, both on the field and off the field, to make it an entertaining package for the fans, and we hope we're moving in the right direction.
The Vikings game Sunday with the Packers is sold out at the Metrodome, one of 3 games to reach that status so far this year. Their game with the Dallas Cowboys December 12th is also sold out.
Next on Vikings Primetime, something you've probably never seen before, the highly secretive strategy sessions where coaches put together their weekly game plans.
While the responsibility of marketing the Vikings and selling tickets rests mostly with the front office, the work that goes into winning games on Sundays starts back here, behind closed doors. This is where the Viking coaches put together their game plan. While months of studying and scouting go into the process, the majority of the work is done in just 2 days. The rest of the week is spent practicing and perfecting the plan. And now an opportunity to show you something we would rarely get a chance to see. KARE 11's Randy Shaver takes us behind the scenes where the Viking coaches are going over videotape and putting together their game plan.
On Sunday, we see the finished product, the fruit of the labor. When things go well on the field, the adage is the team was prepared to play. They followed and stuck to and perfected the game plan. But what exactly is a game plan, and how do the Vikings put one together? It starts here. Shortly after a Viking game ends, video director Larry Kohout edits down the videotape. The entire game is sliced down so coaches can view each play and analyze what worked and what didn't. Then the tapes are pulled to the next opponent. The Viking archives are extensive, but not unfamiliar. The coaching staff already did preliminary scouting in May, so these tapes will basically refresh their memory. Then it's time to go to work. Lights off, and in the darkness, a game plan is formed.
We look at a lot of video, and then when you're looking at the video, you're looking at it to get a good feel for what you feel the opponent's going to do. You look at their down and distance tendencies, you look at their situations in football during the course of a ball game, when they're likely to play a certain zone, 3-deep zone, 2-deep zone, when they're likely to blitz, and what they're likely to do in nickel, goal line, short yardage type situations.
Coaches will spend Monday and all day Tuesday viewing video, forming opinions, and deciding what will work in order to win on Sunday. Come Wednesday, they've got the game plan figured out.
We come in on a Wednesday, and the game plan is there for us. We pretty much, do what they tell us to do.
But the game plan is never set in stone until the Vikings practice against the defense they've scouted and run the plays they think will work. That's why practice makes perfect.
Where you start feeling confidence on Friday when you know that the things that we've added should be able to stop on defense, or the things we've added on offense should be able to help us against their defense.
But no one ever knows if a game plan will ultimately work until the game itself. And that's why you will see coaches and players meeting during the game. They're discussing the game plan, why it's working, why it's not working, and if it's not, how can it be fixed in time to win? Dennis Green knows sometimes the game plan can be overdone. In reality, football is basically blocking, tackling, and executing. If those things happen, then a team will win. And the coaches will probably tell you afterwards the game plan was worked to perfection. The Vikings have a motto: plan your work, work your plan. It sounds simple, but you've seen it's not simple. It's a week of long hours, hard work, and preparation, which ultimately lives or dies during 3 hours on Sunday afternoon. And that chapter ends only to start again the next week. Randy Shaver, KARE 11 Sports.
It'll be interesting to see what kind of difference the Vikings' reshuffled coaching staff makes against the Packers this weekend. Oh, and by the way, all you Packer spies out there, keep this stuff to yourself, would you? I mean, why ruin a good rivalry?
Coming up on Vikings Prime Time, the most intense Vikings rivalry is renewed this weekend. Find out what makes Packer backers among the most die-hard in America and what they have to say about Minnesota and its fans.
Welcome back to Vikings Primetime. I'm Jeff Passolt. In and amongst the benches and barbells here in the Vikings weight room. Football players spend a lot of time in these weight rooms preparing for one of the most rugged jobs in America, playing in the NFL. And this past week, the Vikings have been in here getting pumped up for one of their biggest games of the season, Sunday when they take on Green Bay at the Metrodome. Everyone, including the fans, is fired up for this game because it's the Vikings' oldest and most bitter rivalry. The two teams butting heads in the NFC's black and blue division for over 30 years. The following's so intense that at times, in a good-natured way, it's been known to split up families, even marriages. You'll find a lot of couples in the Twin Cities who split their allegiances between the Vikings and the Packers. That's certainly the case for Lisa Lorig and Steve Dow of Golden Valley. It's clear when you walk through the door of their home. Look around, and it's filled with souvenirs from both teams. She's the Packer fan. He follows the Vikings. Lisa and Steve are engaged to be married soon. And while they call Minnesota home now, when Steve proposed, he did it on Packer turf.
If you had a diehard Packer fan such as Lisa, and as she said, your best memory should be at Lambeau, you would have to propose to a girl at Lambeau. And I can't think of a girl that would say no to someone that gets down in all the beer cups and the peanut shells on his knees and says, "Lisa Marie, will you marry me?" as his plane circles the stadium hanging a 50-foot banner.
That's right.
Would she say no? Pretty good
The crowd
odds.
wanted me to.
Yes.
The crowd started chanting, "Say no, say no." I think they thought they knew he was a Viking fan.
You know, the word fan is short for fanatic. And if you look it up in the dictionary, a fanatic is described as a person with extreme enthusiasm or zeal. And in Green Bay, you'll find more fans per capita than any city in North America. It is hard to explain how fanatical Green Bay is about the Packers, so instead we thought we'd show you. We sent KARE 11's Steve Carroll to Packer country, where he found little tolerance for the Vikings in the streets paved with gold and green.
The Viking-Packer battles began in 1961, and through the years, the border war has intensified into one of the best rivalries in the NFL. While the on-field series is tied, the off-field advantage definitely goes to the Packer fans. Since it's the only game in town, they are loyal, diehards who love and support their team, win or lose. In Green Bay, Packer stuff is everywhere, and I'm talking everywhere. Football helmets are in street signs, which are named after legends. They have green and gold bird feeders, a Titletown motel, snow shovels with team logos, and backyard fences that are painted. The Packer Hall of Fame is a must-see for 80,000 fans annually, and this statue doubles as a local landmark. You can even find people walking around town in uniforms. These just happen to be real Packers on their way to practice. This is legendary Lambeau Field, home of the Packers since the late 1950s. Each Sunday they sell out this place. More than 60,000 people come to watch the football game. But say you want to get a season ticket to the Packers. You better be prepared to wait, because right now there's almost 14,000 people on that list with an average wait of 20 to 25 years. Simply put, Green Bay fans like Don and Kathy Johnson are crazy about their Packers, as you can tell by the memorabilia filling their basement. Kathy roots for Green Bay, except when they collide with the Vikings.
We used to bet lobster dinners, but then I lost too many lobster dinners. Now we just bet dollars.
Yeah, she got down into the real world finally, you know.
Oh, you were living pretty high off the hog there for a while.
Got it right. Yeah. Took advantage of it too, boy.
To understand firsthand how Packer fans feel about the Vikings, I strolled into a Green Bay shopping mall.
This is Viking country, isn't it?
Huh?
Viking country?
You're about 400 miles off course. Nobody likes the Vikings. It's all Packers.
Where?
In Green Bay and the world.
You want to step out the front door and then we'll talk.
Where's your Viking stuff?
Let's see.
Uh-oh. Why are you a Packer fan?
Why?
Yeah.
Because they're the greatest team in the history of the world, that's why.
But they haven't won anything for a long time.
So, name one other team in the National Football League that has 11 national championships. Green Bay does. Green Bay does.
As you can see, the enthusiasm for the Packers is unbelievable, especially when you consider it's been years since they've won a league championship. In Green Bay, Steve Carroll, KARE 11 Sports.
Fans of the Packers and the Vikings will be watching this Sunday's game very closely, because this one is for the ultimate bragging rights. The teams have played 63 games against one another, each winning 31 times, including a tie. That came back in 1978. But the Vikings will be looking for their third win in a row, because they won both games over the Pack last year.
Find out how Coach Dennis Green feels about the Green Bay rivalry next on Vikings Prime Time. Plus, the coach tackles tough subjects on winning in the NFL and why it's important for him to keep his off-field life private.
I happen to be the head coach of Minnesota Vikings. If I was not the head coach of Minnesota Vikings, I would be a coach, whether it be head coach, assistant coach, somewhere else. And you have to be able to live your life and maintain, I think, your style, your family style, throughout any job change that you have.
Following the 1991 season, the Vikings broke from team tradition and went outside their organization to find a new head coach. Dennis Green had an excellent track record as a college head coach, as well as being a longtime assistant for the highly successful San Francisco 49ers. Green left California and Stanford University to become the Vikings' fifth head coach. He was taking over a team of talented veterans that for a long time had fallen short of expectations. His task, turn the team around, bring the Vikings to that high level of play that the NFL demands, as well as returning the Vikings to prominence in the Twin Cities sports market. Well, recently I had a chance to sit down for a candid conversation with the coach about those high expectations.
I think that that's a big part of leadership in the 90s, you know, that to put a quality product on the football field, you got to be able to make tough decisions. And it doesn't matter what the second guessers think or anything like that, because the bottom line is that's how we'll be judged, the bottom line.
What about when you first came here? They were working on your image a little bit, trying to sell this new program here, and they came out with there's a new sheriff in town, and we saw all of that. Were you crazy about all that?
Well, you know, I'm the one that originally came out with the comment, and I said it really for fun. There's no doubt when a new guy comes into town, into an organization that had always known who their head coaches were.
Last year, people thought the Vikings didn't have their heads screwed on straight.
There was no doubt that people expected someone to come in and to get a grip, to grab the bull by the horns, to get the program under control. And to be honest with you, that's what I do. That's my specialty in turning programs around, being dogmatic enough to instill a certain way of doing things, not really caring about the criticism, having enough confidence in the decisions that we make to know that if no one else thinks Jim McMahon should be here, who cares? Because we believe he should be here. You know, if no one else thinks that Robert Smith should be a first-round draft choice, who cares? Because we believe he should be our first-round draft choice, and we're the ones that are going to make the decision. We're the ones that are going to see it out, too. And if we're right, we're right. And if we're wrong, we're wrong. It's still a game. It's a game. It's also entertainment.
Have you been surprised at all that you haven't had sellout crowds down at the Metrodome winning a championship?
Well, I don't think you can be surprised. If you look at the trend on season ticket sales, in-game attendance for the Minnesota Vikings, it's been, maybe with the exception of the first year or 2 years in the Metrodome, has been a slight decline all the way across the board. So that's the way it was. People had gotten out of the habit. When people get in the habit of staying home and watching a game on television, when they get in the habit of going to their local sports entertainment center and watching a football game, it becomes very difficult to get them back out again.
Do you like the Metrodome?
I like the Dome. I think that we have the ability to create a lot of excitement in there. It's a fast surface. We'll try to put a team together that can really respond to the surface. I think the better football that we play, the more vocal the fans will be in response to that.
You, being such a popular public figure in the state, do your best to keep your private life private. We know that you're the father of two, you're married. We rarely see anything or hear anything about that.
I think the big reason for that is that even in big cities, I think it's very difficult for your family to have a life of their own. I've been, you know, Dennis Green for a long time, my whole life, as far as being a lot of other things. Dennis Green, the football player. Dennis Green, the assistant coach. Dennis Green, the head coach. All of a sudden now you can't become the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings and then allow everything else about you to change. So that people look at your son and say, oh yeah, he's the son of the Minnesota Vikings. Or people will talk to my daughter in a different way, or talk to my wife a different way. She goes to the beauty shop and people treat her a little bit differently, or she goes shopping and people treat her differently. That's not our style. We are not elitist. We are not people who think that we're any big deal. I happen to be the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings. If I was not the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, I would be a coach, whether it be head coach, assistant coach, somewhere else. And you have to be able to live your life and maintain, I think, your style, your family style, throughout any job change that you have.
What about the Packer game coming up? Fans love this rivalry. Do the players love the rivalry? Do the coaches realize what it really means deep down for the Green Bay fans and for the Viking fans, and how much rides on this emotionally?
Well, I think they do. I mean, last year, and again, we have some new players this year, so it's up to us to teach the new players. But that's what it's all about. And I've never been one that thinks that what you do in life is supposed to be easy. And winning a football game is not easy either. To beat the Green Bay Packers, we have to play our best game of this year. Now, it's a short year. It's the third game of the year. But it might be we have to play even better than that. You know, the best game that we could possibly play all year, whatever it takes. And so the bottom line is Dennis Green doesn't play, Mike Holmgren doesn't play. The players are the ones that play, and they've got to feel the intense rivalry.
Dennis Green and his reorganized Vikings coaching staff, along with everybody else, fired up about this weekend's rivalry with the Packers. And a reminder that Dennis will join me at 11:05 Sunday night right here on KARE 11 for the Dennis Green Show. But for now, this is Jeff Passolt saying thanks for watching Vikings Primetime. And good night, everybody.